Well, with that, I think we're ready to roll.
All right, let's do it.
Let's get started. Cynthia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so
So,
excited. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to have you, to be honest.
Thank you.
But first off, let me just state that Cynthia and I met quite a while ago now. So essentially,
Mm-hmm.
high school. I can't remember if it was junior or senior year of high school, but it was one of the two.
It was our junior
It
year,
was our junior
except for that was
year,
your
right?
first year at McClatchy.
Correct. All right. So yeah, so it was my junior year when I transferred over to McClatchy. But shout out to
Mm-hmm.
McClatchy for those people that know about
Yeah.
what was it, the Lions, right? Go Lions.
Yeah. Go Lions.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't forget it.
Right. Cool. So I really wanted to have Cynthia on the podcast for several reasons. But two of the main ones are because a few years ago, Cynthia started her own business selling birria tacos from her home.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Sac City Tacos,
Yeah.
a business that was really successful from the start, and we'll be getting more into that.
Yeah.
And also because Cynthia has created a TikTok platform where she now has over 14,000 followers. Congrats on that. But
Thank
more,
you.
but more importantly, she creates consistent content intended to help others. So,
Mm.
okay, Cynthia, I first want to start with the topic of Sac City Tacos. This
Okay.
business that you created, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mistaken, was during the pandemic.
It was, yeah.
2020.
It was like the week before the pandemic like really hit. And then
Okay.
yeah,
So it was right when it was everything
right when it first.
when the spot was getting started with that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really interested into about getting into this because I know there's a lot of people out there that have really good business ideas,
Mm-hmm.
never get the ball rolling with it, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it just simply never becomes a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
let's get started with you giving us a walkthrough of the initial stages of you creating this business and
Mm-hmm.
how the idea first came about.
Okay. So I would say that the idea for the business came about because I love birria tacos and they're a little more expensive than just your regular taco, right? Because it takes about 4 hours to cook the meat and it's just a longer process of just throwing some meat on the grill. So um I was tired of paying a whopping, I don't know, $30 every time I wanted to go because I like to eat a lot. And so I was like, you know what? I could probably just do this at home because I love to cook and I love feeding like my friends and family. I have little gatherings. And so I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And I remember for a couple of weeks, it kind of was like I was what you're saying, where I'm gonna do it, but I wouldn't do it. And then I'm gonna start it, but I didn't start it, right? So it started out just by me making my first batch of birria just to see how I could do it. And it came out really good. And I remember I had my mom and her couple best friends over and a couple of my friends over, and we just ate and had a good time, and they loved them. And then it turned into, I was getting texts like, hey, when are you making it again? Like, when can we? Because I was starting to do it. I think I would do it like once a month. It was like for maybe 2 months, 2 or 3 months that I was like doing it once a month. And they were wanting them more than once a month. They're like, can we want to buy them? Like, what could we do here? And so
So
I
you
had
were
the idea.
just you were sorry to cut you off, but you were just
Mhm.
making them at that point, like just to make them for your friends and family.
Yeah, I was literally just making them just to enjoy them for
Okay.
myself and for my friends and family, like literally just because I wanted to eat them.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah.
I love hosting and feeding people. Like, I really have a passion for feeding people. It's like my love language, right? So
Mm.
that's how it started off. And then I had an idea. I go, how about what if I started selling these? Because I mean, they loved them. They were like, we want more than just once a month. So I remember at the time on my Instagram, my personal Instagram page, I had like 1,000 followers. And I posted on my TikTok, I mean, on my TikTok. So I'm so TikTok mind now. I posted on my Instagram story. I'm like, hey, if I started selling birria tacos, would anybody buy? And you know how you could do the little vote and see how many people,
Yeah.
100% of the people said, yes, we will buy.
Mm.
And at that point, I'm like, I don't know if people just trusted me with cooking because I would post the food that I was cooking on my stories every now and then and stuff, but everybody said yes.
Yeah.
And so literally that weekend, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And at this point, wasn't thinking it was going to turn into what it turned into. And so I remember I went to a little like carniceria and I got about, I think I started out with like 16 pounds, around 15, 16 pounds of meat. And I remember now I have such a different way of doing everything, but I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. So I just go, I buy all the meat, and I sold out in 3 hours. And I was so shocked because I literally just posted on my Instagram story one
Wow.
day very randomly, and boom, like that, 3 hours, all of it was gone.
So
And honestly,
for
sorry, go ahead.
context, like 15 or 16 pounds, how many tacos come out of that? So for that first time that you sold out in 3
Let's
hours.
say about 15. I put three in a plate. So let's say what's 15 times five? About like
250
70. So
50
like
times five?
I would say like 70 plates, or like 60 plates. So
Okay.
the plates that come with three tacos.
So around like
That's how
200 tacos,
yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So it was a good amount. It was a good amount.
Cool.
And honestly, I remember the first sale that I did. I still remember, and it's so cool because these people are still my customers to this day. I still remember like who was my first delivery order and who was my first like pickup order and all these things, right? Um, so I did that, and 3 hours later, I was like, oh my gosh, I was just like, I remember I was like a chicken with my head cut off that day because I didn't expect the support that I got, right?
Mm.
And honestly, most of the people that came that day were just my friends and family supporting. I probably had like 2 or 3 people pick up that I didn't really know that well, but for the most part, it was just my friends and family. And I'm very blessed to have a very supportive, group of people around me. And everybody posted on their story. Every person that picked up posted on their story. And at that point, it was only my personal page. So, they're tagging my personal page, and then I'm starting to get followers. And quickly I realized that this was like something that people wanted more of. But at the time I had a full-time job. So I was working Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I would be open. So that's how I was doing it. I was doing it Saturdays and Sundays only.
When you started selling
And
already,
what was that?
when you started selling already, that first sale you had, was
Mhm.
that already pandemic time? Or it was still
This was
right before?
this was like right around the time when we were having word of like something going on in China that might spread to the US. Do you remember that time where it was like we were hearing?
I do and I don't because I was actually I wasn't living in the
Were you in
country at
Costa
the time.
Rica?
I was in Costa Rica, yeah.
Okay, I remember that because
Yeah.
you had a taco sale when you went to Costa Rica. And I remember I
Yeah.
had my parents stop by. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this was March, probably about the beginning of March, and
Okay.
then the pandemic had like fully hit by like April.
Yeah. I ask you that because I really want to kind of envision and what was going through people's minds of feeling comfortable with going and buying out. Because
Right? No,
you were when
same.
that started hitting. So I'm like, it's really interesting to see how, I mean, it's still
Yeah,
hit regardless of.
yeah. So when the first initial sale, the pandemic wasn't like nothing was shut down yet. It wasn't like a full blown pandemic yet. It was just like word was starting to spread. This was in March, right? This is when I'm starting to do my sales.
Mhm.
By the time I remember end of April, I actually ended up getting laid off from my job that I was at.
Oh.
And that was when the pandemic really had already started, like had everything was getting shut down.
Mhm.
So I remember I got laid off. I think it was April 30th of 2020, and it was a Thursday. And at that point, I had only been open Saturdays and Sundays. And so I literally sat there as I'm getting laid off, and they had already known about my business, right? Because it was taking off to where like, you know, they could tell on my Instagram because I had my coworkers on Instagram, right? And so they're seeing all this traction, and so they know that I already have kind of a business going. So I remember they call me in the office, and the president and the VP are like, we just want to let you know that we're letting you go, and we see the business that you've already had started, and we are like very confident that you're going to be just fine. Like we see that like you're meant for more than just being a receptionist here at our job.
I thought they were
And
gonna be like, we're gonna place an order real quick.
right, well, they had already placed orders, so they
Oh,
had
okay.
tried them. They knew, like
Yeah,
they knew
yeah.
that they were really good, right? So I remember just sitting there, and it caught me off guard because I really didn't expect to be laid off. But I remember sitting there, and I was just smiling in their faces. I said, yeah, like you guys are right. Like I already knew that I was built for more than that, right? But that was just kind of like what I was doing at that time in my life. I needed a stable job. I needed a job with benefits. I needed all that. So, but in my head, I've always known that I wasn't going to work for somebody else for my whole life. I just kind of already known that. So yeah, I sat there with confidence. I said, yeah, you guys are right. Like you guys are totally right. Thank you for the opportunity. And that was that. So that was a Thursday. And I posted on my Instagram that same day, hey guys, I'm open tomorrow. And there we go. It just kept going. And I kid you not, I was open every single day for like, I can't remember how many months. I want to say a couple months I was open, not every single day. And then, people around me like, you need to slow down, like you need to take a break. So I started taking one day off a week. I remember I took Wednesdays off, and then I was just back at it every single day. And like you were saying earlier, like some people trusted it, some people maybe didn't trust it, but they saw the hype around it and they were just like, okay, we need to try it. Because it was almost like, excuse me, it was almost like this, like it was like the cool thing to like post your Sac City tacos on your Instagram story because everybody's eating them, right? So in high school, I talk a lot. I love to talk. And so I've met a lot of people. I have a lot of friends, and they're posting it, and then their friends want to be in on it. It was kind of like a little trend type thing, right? During the like beginning of the pandemic.
So
And
perks of being popular, y'all.
Perks of having good food.
No, for sure that.
No, definitely a mixture of both. I've always been the type of person where I've built great connections, and I'm a very genuine person. People can tell, so they just want to support. And then on top of it being good, they're like, "Hey, no, we need these."
Yeah, you had all the
so right, so it almost seemed like people had nothing to do but come and get tacos. I kid you not, like it was like a 24/7.
Well, I'm like, I don't think people had much to do, so.
So I remember I had one sale at my house, the first house that I started selling out of. And then I just so happened to be moving. The next sale that I had was going to be at my new place. And so here we are, these new people in this neighborhood, and cars are just picking up all day long. And I remember my neighbor came across the street. She goes, like, what's going on here? Like, what are you guys selling? Like, what is it? Because it has to be good. Because it was really, really, I mean, some days I wouldn't even have time to like stop and drink a sip of water or like do anything but like just be right there at it and, talking to customers and all that and stuff. And so that's really how it got started, honestly. Like it was kind of by accident. I never had the dream of, oh, I want a restaurant or I want a food truck, or, there's some people that have that dream, and I didn't really have that in me, but I had the hustle in me. Like I had the like, you know what? I want a little extra side cash. I had my job was paying well and stuff, but I just wanted a little extra side money really to invest and to hopefully start my little whatever I wanted. I didn't know at the time, but really it just kind of took off on its own. I didn't do much marketing besides on social media. I did the little stickers eventually and stuff like that. But other than that, I didn't do any business cards. I didn't do any flyers. I just posted on Instagram, and the word spread like wildfire, honestly.
I feel like a lot of things lined up at the time, that the pandemic happened and people were more on social media, and it was kind of eating out was a thing. So it's like you kind of started at the perfect time. And like you said, you started it just for fun and
not even knowing that the pandemic was about to hit, not even knowing that anything was going on. It was just,
So when you started selling the tacos, I think you would have gone about things differently if you wouldn't have had so much success, like right off the get-go with so many people coming in. Because this is a common thing where people will start a business, and because it takes long, like some time to get some traction, well, that's where they'll kind of just stop, or if they have the mindset of like, I know this takes time, but with you it was like instant, like boom,
instant.
Do you think you would have gone about it differently? Have you ever thought about that?
I feel like I haven't really thought about that, but I feel like I probably would have just had it as a little like maybe side hop. I mean, that's kind of, we'll talk about everything that's happened since this point 3 years ago and why everything's kind of a little bit different now and stuff. But I think, I probably would have just maybe done it every now and then, or maybe not even continue doing it. I probably, if it hadn't gone the way it would have, I probably would have been really nervous about losing my job and then found another job right away. But because I already had the confidence in my business and knowing that I had the support and I had the customers, I just kept going. I literally posted, I kid you not, like the second I walked out of the office, because I was like, well, my time's free tomorrow. Like I have nothing else to do but to go full force into this. And so that's exactly what I did.
That's crazy. And that was a crazy time when people were just getting laid off, left and right during that time. That didn't have something to fall back on or to start working. You did. I could only imagine that. But again, I mean, that was a thing in the past. That was a few years ago already. Crazy to think about how that was actually.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So when you got it kicking,
Mhm.
when you got the business going and it was gaining traction, had all these customers, what would you
Yeah.
say was the most challenging part of keeping the business afloat? Um, and I feel like this here is going to pertain to almost any business, but in this
Yeah.
specifically to yours or, people that have
Yeah.
food industry.
Yeah. I think for me, I want to say just, I mean, and then like this is with any business, and really the food business is just the stress of it all. Is like
Mm.
when I first started, and this is just when I cook, regardless. When I'm cooking at home, if I was cooking for my friends here at my own home, I like everything to be perfect. Like I want every bite to be like amazing. And that's just how I am with most things that I do, but specifically things that I'm really passionate about. And
Mm.
cooking is one of them. And so I would overanalyze every little piece. I mean, like if the onions were not chopped like fine enough, like I was having a
I was
conniption,
like
or
that.
like, or like if
Okay.
I didn't crisp the taco enough to what I thought my customer needed to like fully enjoy that bite, like I would beat myself up over it in my head,
Mm.
right? So I think, and now like and I've changed so much as a person in this past 3 years that I started. So I'm a completely different person now, and we will get probably more into that. And
Mhm.
so that has helped me manage my business better. Like now I do it and I don't let myself get so stressed out and so like it was just one of those things where like every second of the day someone was coming and picking up tacos and I'm there trying to like make sure everything, and I was probably the most annoying person to work with when I first started because like I said, I wanted everything to be perfect. Like I wanted everything to be perfect. I didn't want anything. I just wanted my customers to have the best experience. And so I think just the stress of it all, it's obviously physically draining, but it's more mentally, I would say mentally draining. And so at the end of the day, you're just like I can't think about anything by the time I'm done cooking. I'm just like, nobody talk to me. I need to like Zen moment right now because it's a lot of stress.
Yeah. And then with that specifically too, with making birria tacos, you mentioned
Hmm.
how it takes like 4 hours just for them to
Hmm.
cook. So
Right.
like doing this overnight or in the morning for like 3 hours?
Morning, early morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
early morning. And when I first started, I didn't really have a gauge of like how much meat I was going to go through and how much I was going to need for the day or whatever. And so now I have more of an idea, right? So like now I do more 2 day sales and I kind of can manage things a little bit better. But at the beginning, like I didn't really, like I said, this, it wasn't like oh, I have a business plan and I know like my target goals. Like I didn't have any of that in mind. It was just like, extra side money, right? And so um yeah, I would wake up. I would wake up when it's still dark out and get the meat pot going and have it ready and just ready to go. Yeah.
Interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
in your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
why do you think that people hold back from starting the business that they've been thinking about? Or for some people, I know people that for years have been thinking, having that idea, but
Yeah.
never get it started. And
Yeah.
others, might have sprung up not too long ago. But what do
Mm-hmm.
you think people hold back?
I think just the fear of failure, or just the fear of the unknown, really. And I could speak on this personally because yes, I started this business, but there have been other businesses in the past that I've wanted to start that I'm kind of more getting into now, which for
Mhm.
me has more been e-commerce. Like that has been my goal from the beginning, is to sell online. Now I've found my niche of like maybe doing digital products to help people with mental health or whatever. Like, I'm working on my ebook and stuff like that. But um I think it's just the fear of failure, or the fear of the unknown, like just not knowing, or even just not really knowing exactly step by step of what you're going to do. And so it just holds you back of overthinking all the things that you need to start to do, and you just get paralyzed and just don't do anything. You know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, there's so much. I just don't even want to get started. That's kind of like what I've felt as far as with the e-commerce space. So I feel like maybe that might be other people saying of just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that despite the fact that you created a business a few years ago,
Hmm.
you actually went, all for it. You still
Hmm.
have these other ideas that you're,
Hmm.
putting off or been holding off on.
Yeah.
But regardless of the fact, like, you're an example of what happens when you actually do get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you have the experience, um, and the credibility to back that up in a statement of, like, hey, this is what
Hmm.
we do. So that leads to the next one is like, what would be your advice for someone? Like, imagine you're talking right now to, I don't know, your cousin or one of your sisters or someone in your family, and they're telling you about something, an idea that they have,
Mhm.
uh, but
My advice.
they're just not going for it. Or
Yeah, no, my advice would be to, you just have to start. You just have to start, and you can talk about it, and you could talk about it, you talk about it, but you have to take action at some point.
mm,
And the time is now. Like we're like, there's this book, The Power of Now, book that I really love. And the only moment that we really have is right now. So if you're constantly talking about the future is right now, you
yeah,
know? So that's just kind of more of my thing of like, figure out, maybe if it's overwhelming you, just make a list of things that you know you need to get done, and like take a little pitch at it, like little at a time, you know, whether it's right now. I could give you a perfect example for this. My cousin is starting a cheesecake. She makes the best cheesecakes.
oh, is that your
It's
cousin?
the
I
crust.
saw
It's the
that.
crust on
Yeah, all right.
Instagram.
Yep.
I kid you not, I don't like cheesecake. That cheesecake I ate for breakfast and lunch while I was cooking my tacos the other day when I was open. I didn't have time for like anything else.
Mhm.
And it's so good. So anyway, we're standing there and we're talking about it, right? She's done one sale and she did well, and now she's going full force with it. So we're standing there in the kitchen. It's me, my cousin, my two sisters. And she's like, I really need you guys to help me. Like, we're trying to figure out the name and we're trying to figure out all these things. And I said, well, let's sit down and do it right now. And, like, let's do it right now. And so that's exactly what we did. She started her Instagram that day. She
Yeah.
figured out the name that day. We started doing it. I said, you know what? Oh, we're tired of talking about it. Let's do it right now. And that's what we did. And since then, she's got her, I don't know if you've seen the reels that they created, really good content that they're putting out right now. And so my sister Yesenia has been helping her with it. And so it's kind of been a little like,
Yeah.
we're all helping out as much as we can and stuff. And so that's a perfect example of somebody that's been wanting to do something. And you know what? Now's the time. Like, now is the time. Let's do it. So,
Yeah. Okay. So you dropped some several bombs on that one, and the first one is the just get started part.
yeah.
I think this is a topic that I'd actually like to give my 2 cents on right as well.
Yeah.
From personal experience, more so with the business that I created with day trading.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that from the start too, of like just get started. And
Mm-hmm.
with mine, it's taken a longer time to gain traction. Where it took a longer time. I've been doing it for
Mm-hmm.
over 3 years. But it was just like you either do it now or you wait another year or two and do whatever it is that you're doing and then look back and still won't have that idea and now you get started, but now you lost that year or two. Uh,
Right.
because I think a lot of people wait until they have the perfect time with everything aligned to get the ball rolling with that. But
There it is right there. Yeah.
because somebody is like with what we hear from parents that you're never fully prepared to be a parent. It's the same thing with
Right.
like
You
business.
learn as you go.
You learn as you go. Once you get it started, you're gonna learn that you're gonna get the experience of the things that don't work out or that you shouldn't do, and then the things that do work out. So you just
Right.
you just jump for it. And
Right.
that's what holds a lot of people back, though, is the fact of like, oh my God, no, I don't know what's gonna happen if I do get it started.
Mm-hmm.
I know people, I have close friends who started businesses, and because the first week or two didn't have the sales that they expected or thought were going to happen, they never continued.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like
Right.
that's going to be part of it. Actually, for most people, that's going to be
Yeah.
the case. It's really cool to see when you started your business. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I feel like everything lined up at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
more important than anything, you just went for it when you were just like,
Right.
let me go for
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what people need. And then
Yeah.
with your cousin, another thing that you mentioned is I think she's getting really good mentorship with yourself and your sister,
Oh yeah,
which is
for
another
sure.
thing with regardless of what industry you're in. I think
Mm-hmm.
seeking mentorship, whether that being like an online course or
Yeah.
someone that that's another important thing, because I'm sure when you were all having that conversation, you were like, well, let's do it right now. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
oh shit, okay, yeah,
Yeah. No, she was like, oh, okay. Well, we all sat down, we figured out the name that day. She created her Instagram page, and that's how it starts.
yeah. Well, there you
Mm-hmm.
go.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition to the next part of what I want to talk about, Cynthia. But before we leave
Yeah.
from that, I do want to give a shout out to Sac City Tacos. Not to be biased, and it's because it's you, but oh my God, like those tacos
You
are
like it?
fire. Yes, what it was like 2 days ago when I got a plate, and
Yeah.
I was like, man, okay.
And was it your first time or was your first
No, that
time?
wasn't my first time. No, no, no.
Okay,
I
okay.
got them, what do I say, a year
Well,
ago?
you just order them so you can say that in this podcast.
No, not at all.
I'm
Little
kidding.
case you hadn't sold, Cynthia. I was waiting for them to drop it.
I'm kidding. I know I've been closed for a while.
Yeah, yeah. And so that worked out actually. Look, talk about things lining up. I was like,
Right, right.
because I think I was gonna say when we were originally going to do this, was that before the day that I got to talk about? No, I think it was around the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, but no, it wasn't just because we were gonna be. Um, but so Cynthia, the next part, now I want to jump into this platform that you've created with TikTok. And I
Yeah.
think right here is the part where we're gonna get to know a little bit more about yourself as well, because
Yeah.
I do remember you creating this platform a few years ago and the
Mm-hmm.
type of content that you were initially posting. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the evolution over the years,
Right.
more recently.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get started with the beginning, and I think you could always give us a walkthrough of initially what was your intention
Yeah.
with the content that you were creating.
Right. So initially, I had started creating more like investing content about investing, and that was something that I was really into. And not to say that I'm not anymore, but I've kind of found more like what my passion is.
Mhm.
But while I was working my full-time job and I was doing the tacos on the side, I had that extra money to invest in the stock market and the cryptocurrency and stuff. And so I was really into that. I would sit there and do my research and stuff, and I'd be excited because I'm like, okay, I'm having a sale coming up. I'm going to be able to buy this and I'm going to buy that and whatever. So that was originally kind of what I got into and what I wanted to just, I wanted to start creating content around that. But then I found just as things were happening in my life and as everything was going on, I just felt like I could be more of a service to others by posting about what the content I have now, which is more about, mental health, more about mindfulness, self-awareness, and all that kind of stuff. So that was really where it started out. And then once I feel like that was just my little like initiation into the TikTok world of like getting comfortable behind camera and comfortable with the editing and just, I mean, I don't really do crazy edits, but just in general, I mean, I'm just even posting on TikTok.
Yeah.
At first, TikTok to me was so foreign. It was like something that my little niece would be on that I was like, stay off TikTok. Like, and now I'm like on TikTok.
Tell me about it. Oh my God. I was like, that's
Yeah.
like TikTok myself as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you
That's how I started. Yeah.
you started. So where you've gotten to now and the content that you're creating,
Mm-hmm.
and it was more about like self-help, being mindful about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is this something that you do it because it helps you as well? You see it intentionally
Yeah.
for others? Like how does that, because to create the niche that you created is like a very specific,
yeah.
You could tell that you're putting your like self there.
Yeah. So ever since I was little, I've always wanted to help people. I've always known that I want to help people. That's always been something that's made me happy. Just in general, people that are around me, my friends, my family, but I know that I could extend my what I have to say to the whole world, really, because TikTok is worldwide, right? So I started creating it. I'm trying to remember like the first videos that I started creating this type of content, and really it was because I was going through a really tough time with my mental health. And I remember the first thing I did when I got out of the mental hospital, of my whole episode that I had going on, which we can get into. First thing I did when I got out of the mental hospital and I found out what was going on with me, I typed in on TikTok, what is psychosis? Like, what is that, right? And not many videos popped up. Nobody had a clear understanding. I mean, I don't think anybody really has the clearest understanding, because when you're in that state, you're out of your mind, right? So I'm thinking if I went and did that, then I'm sure other people want to know more information about what just happened to them, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly how it happened.
I wasn't sure how comfortable you were going to be with sharing certain things.
I'm very open, and yeah.
I think we have to. It'd be good for you to give us a little bit of context about that.
Yeah, because that's really how I started this whole entire thing, which is crazy because everything happens for a reason. But
yeah.
So
and again, think about how a lot of people, when they listen to these types of things, you never know what somebody is going through, which again is exactly why you create the content that you do.
Right.
But somebody could be resonating with a lot of this stuff. So just one being like, oh my God, I was there before, or I'm there right now, or
right.
Like
in the
future. So
Right.
yeah, gives a little bit of
Yeah.
background on that.
Yeah. So let's say at the end of 2020,
Hmm.
which was the peak of my business, everything was going very, very well in my business. I was under a lot of stress. I was under a lot of stress from my business, personal relationships, family relationships, all of that. And I wasn't, like I said, I mentioned briefly earlier, some days I would be so busy where I wouldn't even eat, or I wouldn't even get hungry. I wouldn't even drink water. I wouldn't even have time to think about doing these things, which now I'm so much more aware of that. I mean, I still have my days where I'm like, okay, it's like 1 o'clock and I've just been making tacos. I haven't eaten yet. So it's definitely a balance, but I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't really working out much because my days were busy 24/7 and a lot of stress. And I pretty much drove myself insane. And I had a whole psychotic episode that lasted about 2 months. It was very, very scary, and it kind of is all a little bit blurry, but I definitely have memory of it, a little bit of it. Um, and that was at the beginning of 2021. So that was January and February of 2021. And then at the beginning of January 2021 was when I was admitted to the mental hospital, and I was in there for about 3 weeks. I got out and I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder. And that means like there's two different, from my understanding, is bipolar 1 is bipolar with psychotic features, meaning like there's a chance that you could lose your mind. Um, and prior to that experience, I had had no mental health problems really in the past. Like prior to that, I didn't know I was bipolar. I didn't know any of that. I did know that my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well, and so I know that that's hereditary. And so it wasn't really like a surprise to me because my dad had had an experience like I had had before. So it wasn't a surprise to me, but I didn't really identify with it, and I still don't really identify too much with that because I know I've just developed a lot of different mindsets that have helped me,
Mhm.
with this whole process. And so that's kind of how it got my TikTok page of what it is now got started, because I had experienced psychosis, had no idea what that even was before, really. Like, even when my dad had it, we didn't really know. Like, we didn't know what's going on. You just, it's a very confusing thing.
So when you're at the hospital, how exactly do
Hmm.
they diagnose you with something like that? Do they like hook you up to something, kind of see your brain?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
just talk to you? What
So,
like? And this is coming from someone who really doesn't have experience with that, either personal or
yeah,
family. Fortunately,
yeah,
uh, I'm grateful for that. But
yeah,
it's like, what does that look like?
yeah. So, really, when I was in the hospital, they just watch you 24/7. So they're watching what you're doing all the time because you're constantly monitored. There's people like sitting in the hallways right by your room. Like, for me, I was like the crazy girl in the mental hospital. So there's some people that aren't as, like, maybe they're just on watch because people are worried that they might hurt themselves, or like, I don't really know the too specific of like all the people that were there because I was so out of my mind while I was there. But so for me, they were like heavily like watching me, like,
Yeah.
and because my mom was like on the phone with the doctors 24/7, like,
And
watch her, please make sure my kid's okay.
you were just in a room the whole time?
So no, you're not in a room the whole time, but like anywhere I am, I'm monitored by people. Like, you're monitored 24/7. Like, well, you're supposed to be monitored 24/7. Almost like, so when you're in the mental hospital, think of it as like a long hallway, and on each side of the hallways there's rooms, like a
Mhm.
bunch of different rooms. And in the rooms there's two beds and then like your own little bathroom in the room for the two people to share. So most of the time by my room, there would be like, so they have doctors there, they have nurses there, and then they have people that are just kind of like caretakers, like taking care of the people there. From
Yeah,
my understanding, right? From my, like, what I remember.
yeah, yeah.
And so I would try to escape a lot. So I think that they heavily monitored me a little bit more.
Wait, oh my God, hold up.
Sorry, this is a lot.
No, 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 but I didn't mean to laugh like that either. It's like, so you were trying to escape the place? Like
Yes.
you were trying to,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So, okay, this is how it happened. So first, what my family took me to the emergency room, like the regular hospital.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't know what was wrong with me because I was like, I think for 3 days I didn't sleep. Like 3 days total, I didn't get not one. Like, I was just so wired. I was just so like, your body, it goes into like, you have really high highs and then you go really low lows during that when you're in like a psychotic state like that. So I wasn't really like, my body just could not sleep. I couldn't sleep. And those days I don't really remember, but I just remember, I think when they realized like, okay, we need to take her, there's something going on, we need to take her, was when I was starting to collapse over. Like, I think I almost hit my head on the counter. I think my brother, I don't remember this, but this is what they're telling me. They
Mm.
had to like grab me from falling over. My body was just weak. It was just super weak. And so they took me to the emergency room first. And then from the emergency room overnight, they took me to the mental hospital. So I woke up like completely confused about where I was, because I remember to be in the hospital, but I didn't really, and I'm also out of my mind at this time, right? So there's nothing really makes sense to me.
But you're not
So
tied down or anything like that, right? When at the
no. So it's not as scary as like what you've seen in movies, maybe,
because
but
yeah, my what I think about, have you seen those movies when they're like in these white
in a straight jacket.
stuff?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's not
no,
like that,
they
yeah.
didn't have me in a straitjacket. No, I had one experience where it was a little traumatic, and I'm okay talking about it now because I talked about it a lot with my TikTok. Has really helped me. But one experience where it was kind of similar to that, where like one of the nurses was trying to take me into my room, and I didn't. I was very confused, and I think I like went like this, like kind of elbowed her off of me, and they have a giant security guard in the building. So he
No,
picks me up, lifts me like I'm a feather, which I'm a heavy girl. So I was like, how did he just, he lifts me up and he carries me into like this back, like hidden room. It's like in the back of where all the doctors and the nurses are. And it's a really dark room. And there's nothing in the room besides like a mat on the floor. And he like puts me on the floor, and then they inject me with like a tranquilizer, like a shot of like
oh my
whatever's going to
God.
calm me down.
Yeah,
And then I probably just knocked out. And then that's all I remember.
that sounds like a movie. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, my life has literally been a movie this past couple of years, like literally a movie.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're in this hospital, you said for about 2 months.
Mhm. I was in the whole psychotic episode where I was completely out of touch with reality for about 2 months, but in the hospital I was there for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're finally, was it released from it or you just
hmm
leave?
Yeah. So I wasn't okay. So
I
I
don't
wasn't supposed to
words
get
at
out.
all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a lot of like little like details, but
Mm.
one of the days I was sleeping in my bed. That's all I could do was like literally try and sleep, or I don't know. I was just out of my mind. I wanted to get out of there. I felt like I thought in my mind that I was in trouble and like that I was in prison or like in jail or like,
Mhm.
because I didn't know what was going on. And here I am in this place where I can't see my family. Like I I am just like so confused. Like imagine you're out of your mind. You don't know why you're here, like where you are. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, I remember the doctor comes in my room, and she has a piece of paper, and I don't really remember her if she did explain. Maybe I was out of my mind and I don't remember, but all I remember is her pretty much saying like sign here. So I'm just like half asleep. I grab the paper, I sign the paper, and whatever, she goes. And I remember a couple days later, I'm asking the doctors like, okay, when can I leave here? Like I'm trying to leave. And they're like, oh, you just signed another 30-day hold. And I was like, what do you mean I signed it? Like, what? I was so confused. So I was losing my mind. I had already lost my mind, but I was losing my mind even more being in there, right? So every single day I would ask the doctor, when can I get out? When can I get out? And they would come and they would assess us every day, or like, I don't know if they would do it every day, but like when it was close to my release date, the doctor would come in and assess me and see how I was. He'd ask me questions like, what day is it today? And I didn't know what day. I started having to keep track of like the days in my little like journal that I had.
Is
Like
it
I
like when
felt like the
you're
old
writing on the walls and like in the oh my
scratching in the wall at different days. No, so
God.
luckily I had a little journal and a little pen. And I would write. Once I figured out the day, I was asking people like, what's today's date? Because I didn't know. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a calendar. I didn't have anything. Like I didn't, how was I supposed to, I don't know. I don't know if they told us the day every day and I just wasn't listening. I have no idea. But once I learned that that was part of how he assessed me to see if I could go home, I
Mm.
started keeping track of the days. So every morning in my little journal, I'd write like January 30th or January 31st or whatever. And that's how I would keep track. So when the doctor would ask me, what day is it today? Like he would ask me certain questions and I would be able to answer back. And I remember, I think he just got annoyed with me. I think he was so annoyed and it was like, okay, just let this girl go. Like, let her out, because every day I was constantly like, when can I leave? Can you get the order from the doctor for me to get out and stuff? And so, yeah, it was just a
That's
whole, yeah,
interesting. And
yeah,
crazy too. Uh,
yeah.
so
Oh,
when,
and keep in mind, all of this is happening while like I was in the midst of my business is popping off. So people are used to seeing me like every, all the time, coming getting my tacos. I'm like running a business, and now I'm like this insane girl in the hospital, just like that.
yeah. Oh my God. So the business was out for a few weeks?
So the business was out for about a week, and I think about a week and a half into it, my family and my ex-partner that was running the business with me were like, we got to get back on things and keep the business
Yeah.
still going. And so they kept the business going while I was in there. And my sister took over my Instagram page and was like super active on there. And she's a whole marketing genius, which I'm sure, hopefully you'll be able to get her on here and you guys can go more into that. But she was taking over my Instagram, excuse me, and everybody was running it for me while I was in there, and no one really had any idea.
Yeah.
And
They
you
were.
want to know a really funny full circle moment? So I get out of the mental hospital, right? And about a month later, I'm back at it. I'm back at my working. I'm back at, going at it. And I get an order, a delivery order. And I type in the address and I Google map it, and I see that the person that's ordering works at the mental hospital that I had literally just gotten out of, right?
Oh,
So I'm like, oh my God, how crazy is this, right? I was just the insane girl in here. And now here I am, like delivering to one of my customers here. So while I was in the mental hospital, I feel like a lot of them, and I don't want to generalize all the nurses and everybody that worked in there, but a lot of them kind of just seemed like they didn't really care.
are
Like,
they
or they were just kind of like, huh?
they're assholes?
Some of them were assholes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but there was one specific lady that my mom would call a lot, and the lady was like, don't worry, I'm going to take care of your daughter. Like, don't worry. And I remember in my psychotic brain, I thought this lady was like evil. Like, I had like such bad paranoia about everything and everybody, right? So
Mhm.
I did not trust this lady. She's this older, cute little lady. And like, I did not trust her. I did not trust she would try and feed me because I wouldn't eat. And she would like try and make me eat and be like, come on, honey, like just eat. But I'm like thinking she's like trying to poison me or something. Like when you're in that state of mind, you're just so like just out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, intrusive thoughts, like when everybody has intrusive thoughts, right? Like when you just have these like random weird thoughts that you're like, whoa, like I don't know. But
We
imagine
all
not
have
being able
those.
to control or know if they're crazy intrusive thoughts or if they're like regular thoughts. So
Yeah.
like think about all the thoughts you have every day. Like that's what it is like in being in psychosis, where you just like run with any thought that you have. Like the first, like, I don't know, very, very paranoid. So this is where I'm like, okay, God's timing and divine timing is everything. So that lady's taking care of me the whole time I'm in there, right? So then fast forward, I get out, I'm delivering the tacos to the front of the mental hospital. And as I'm driving out,
Oh, it was
the
at the
lady,
hospital too?
what was that?
It was at the hospital that you were
It
delivering?
was
Like,
at the
literally?
hospital I was delivering at. The lady worked at the hospital. Yes.
Okay.
This is like literally not even like, this is actually like a month later that I
Mhm.
got out. So as I'm pulling out, guess who's walking up for their shift? The lady that had been taking care of me while I was in there. She walks up, and I turn to the side and I'm like, I just smile and I wave at her, and I know she recognized me. Obviously, she had been with me like every single day for the past like a month prior. And her face just lit up and she just smiled and she like waved, probably was like, girl, what are you doing here? Like, what just happened? I don't know if she saw the transaction of me giving the food or what. And she was just like so happy to see me. That's all. That's all. It was just the wave. And then I kept on going. And then I was trying to get out of there as fast as possible. But like, I just thought it was like, what are the odds that that's the person as I'm literally about to pull off that's walking up to her shift?
That's crazy. I
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be her, the one that would order the taco.
No, oh, that would have been a better story. I should have made it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy though. You
Yeah.
have told me this story before, but you're sharing some other details now that I'm like, oh my God, I hadn't heard those before.
Yeah. There's so many things
Yeah,
to that whole experience.
I bet. And it sounds like a very, I don't even know how to word it, but just I don't want to say use the word crazy because it's like
No, it's crazy.
but it's like so after you get out of there, well, okay, different parts to this, but first off, did you think that was the best option? let's say in this case for yourself or just in general
Mhm.
to tackle that kind of situation? If somebody's,
Mhm.
do you think that helped you at the end of the day? Or would it have been better just
Um,
to put that outside and not be, kind of confined in this space and
oh man, it's really tough to say because it's really tough to say because they put me on medication as soon as I got in there.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's, I don't know. Like, it's still something that I don't know. I think if I was maybe explained, like, I feel like if they cared a little bit more in there, like, of trying to say, like, this is what's going on with you right now, like, just explain a little bit of something to me, other than making me feel like I was in trouble for something or like that I did something wrong. Not that they made me feel that way, but I feel like my paranoia made me feel that way. And so I feel like if they just cared a little bit more, like, I feel like I would know how to take care of somebody that was in that state if I was like working there, but I feel like maybe the people haven't experienced, and some people might have not experienced that themselves. So, you don't really know how to do that. But I think at the end of the day, it was good because my family didn't know what to do with me. Like they really didn't know. They were just kind of at their like that was their last option. They didn't really want to send me there, but they didn't know what else to do. And so I think at the end of the day, yeah, it was good.
yeah.
I don't want to say it's like a good experience, like a good experience by any means, but I feel like it's just kind of needed was what was needed, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you get out of there, you're
Hmm.
back on your business, back on everything that you were doing prior to that.
Hmm.
You had already started your TikTok?
I started my TikTok. No, I didn't start my TikTok yet. And it's really crazy because when I got out of the hospital,
Mhm.
my dad, he goes, because I had a following on Instagram, obviously, because my tacos page, not really 4,000, around 4,000 followers. And so, but I feel like my community on there, I know my customers, like, I know them, like, they know me. I love my customers. Like, I know some of them, I know their orders. Like, I know them. It's been 3 years that I've been interacting with these people at this point. But he was like, you could share what you're going through and your whole experience on your platform, and you could help a lot of people. And I literally, at this point, I was in a very, very negative state of mind, right? And so I go, yeah, right. Like, I will never do that. I go, no, I literally didn't even give the time of day. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't
Mhm.
even know why you would bring that up because I'm not gonna go on Instagram and tell people that I just went crazy. Like, it was just something I felt shame about at first. And I was like, yeah, I literally didn't even give the time of day. I was like, no. And now, like, fast forward, that's exactly what I'm doing now.
That's insane. So your dad kind of initially planted that idea?
Yeah, I guess. And the thing is that when I started doing it, I didn't even think about that initial my dad telling me. Like, I thought about it after where I was like, whoa, wait, I'm doing exactly what my dad had suggested for me to do. But I was in such a different mindset at that point that like I was in a very negative state of mindset. Like I was super low. I was on medication and I was like a zombie. Like I didn't have any emotion. Like I was just like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, my dad planted it in my head and maybe my subconscious mind held it in my head the whole time. And,
Mhm.
when I was ready to, when I was able to, when I was comfortable to, I started it.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
when you finally start posting this type of content, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe no, well, I know it was prior to another event that happened
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
last year.
Yeah.
Prior to that, you're already on this journey of being more mindful and
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on what had happened to you. What would
Right.
you say was the main thing that really helped you get out of that hole that you were in,
The main thing that helped me get out of the hole, I would say, was gratitude,
Yeah.
was just being grateful. I can remember the day still where, so I got to the mental hospital February 2021. Then March 2021, my ex and I, who had had the business together at that point, we were together for about 3 years. Um, he couldn't do it anymore. It was the whole mental experience and that whole stuff was just too much for him to handle, which is totally okay. Everybody has their own, what they can deal with. And
Mhm.
so he moved to the other side of the country. And that was like a whole nother trigger for me. Like that was like, I was devastated because at that point I had thought that I was going to be with that person for the rest of my life. So not only did I just get out of the mental hospital so confused about what's going on with my brain, right? I was getting brain scans and all these things going on. And so then he leaves, and now I'm dealing with a breakup of like somebody out, you know? So that's just like, was like 10 times on top of what I was going through. And at the time when I was in my psychotic episode, he was the only person that I wanted to be with. Like him and my younger sister, Yesenia, those two people, everybody else was like, my mom, I didn't trust. My dad, I didn't trust. My sister, and this is just because I was in that state of mind, right? But for some reason, him, well, I know why, but him and my younger sister were like I had to have them by my side 24/7. So imagine him just getting up and leaving was like devastating to me. So after he leaves, it's March, early March. And after that, I got into like the deepest depression ever, like deepest depression where I'm like, don't want to get out of bed, don't want to talk to anybody, don't want to do anything, don't even want to live, really. I had such like, it would felt like every ounce of energy was sucked out of my body. Like I'm a very like upbeat person. I like to talk. I'm like loud. I'm like the type of person you have to tell, like, hey, I'm right here, I'm talking to you, like you don't need to scream. Like I'm like one of those people, just a lot of energy, right? I had zero energy. And I remember, you know, my mom every day would be like, come on, you know, like, let's do things. Let's get you out of the house. Let's go for a walk. Let's do these different things. And I, no, didn't want to do any of it. But I will always remember the day where I decided the day where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of living like this. It was unfortunately when like a lot of bombings were happening in Afghanistan. It was April 2021. It was like, I don't know exactly like I was, like I said, I was completely out of just everything, but there was a lot. I was on social media and I saw that there was a lot of just terrible things happening in Afghanistan, and a lot of families were displaced and a lot of people were losing their lives and all these things. And I still can remember being in my room, dark, because I didn't want any light. I wanted to sleep all day, really.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing about all this going on, and I thought to myself, like, wow, like here I am in a home, in a beautiful room, like in my home, I'm safe. I have my family here with me. And I'm choosing this life. I'm choosing this depression. I'm choosing all these things for myself when there's people that are literally losing their lives, that are little kids that don't have a home anymore. Like I just really, like, for some reason that really just changed my whole perspective. Like, of course we know that all these things happen around the world. I mean, people are losing their lives 24/7, but it was just like one of those things where I felt so like ungrateful. I was like, how dare I waste another day of my life when I have everything to be, so many things to be grateful for. And here I am choosing negativity and choosing to be depressed all day and every day. And so from that moment on, I said, you know what? Like, that's it. Like, I'm done with this. Started working out every day. It started like 3-4 times a week. And then it continued, you know, got to 5 to 6 times a week, you know, the whole thing. But yeah, I remember that I just switched my mindset to gratitude. And that really was the most powerful thing I could have done for myself, honestly, at the time.
Yeah. That's so interesting. The mental fortitude that you need to have to really pick yourself up from everything going on like that.
Yeah. No. I had felt like my whole life was over. Like I literally felt like my life was over. The partner that I thought I was gonna have gone. My business, I didn't know what I was gonna do with it at the time, because you need help when you're doing it. Like, and he was my help every day.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going on with that. I had been dealing with family problems as well. So it was just like I just felt like my life was over. But really, like, fast forward 2 years later, nothing's changed. I still don't have that. I'm still not with a partner. You know, if anything, things have gotten worse, but like I'm so much happier now than I was back then. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, is that like you have to choose happiness because you deserve it and because you want it, not because you're waiting for, you know, you can't wait for the new job, or you can't wait for a new partner, a new car, whatever it is. Like, you can't wait on something to happen for you to be happy, or think that once you acquire something, then you're going to be happy. That's not how it works. It's like, you have to choose it right now because you deserve it.
Yeah. No, and that's a really powerful message, especially you shared earlier of the book of the Power of Now, and how what we have is right now. Like, this is the thing in existence. The only reality is literally right now.
Yeah.
So honestly, like, kudos to you for that. You know,
yeah, thank you.
And kind of overcoming that. And I remember when you this is around the time or after that when you started building the platform, sharing all the things that you were on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And then this kind of leads to a new event
Yes.
last year.
Yes, my mother's passing. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm so sorry for that
Thank you.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
But this kind of leads to kind of like a new chapter in your life,
Yeah.
being
A whole new
overcome
chapter.
something like what you did, early 2021, and then
Mm-hmm.
2022, having all of this time of growth and really just exploring yourself. And then this happens.
Mm-hmm.
How does your mind, how do you take that, first of all, and how do you
Mm-hmm.
transition that into?
Yeah. So the way that I kind of look at it is everything happens for a reason, right? But when I had already kind of been into spirituality and reading the books that I've kind of talked about, Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra, all these people that I really love. Don Miguel, like, the Four Agreements, all these books. I had already kind of been into it, but after I got out of the mental hospital, and once I decided that I was going to choose happiness for myself and really just focus on self-awareness and mindfulness and all these things, I dove right into it, right? And so I remember that all of 2021, like, starting from April was when I had my whole, like, I was ending my depression there. So like May, June, the rest of the year, nonstop working on myself. I slowed down with the business. I wasn't open as much anymore. Like, my customers were like, "What's going on? Where are you? Like, what's happening?" And I didn't really want to I don't want people feeling bad for me, right? So I didn't tell like people what was happening. I never really posted even on my Sac City Tacos that my mom passed away or anything like that, because I was closed for a long time because of that too.
Mm.
So I was just so focused on working on myself and working on my mindset and really controlling my thoughts, because I was allowing my thoughts to control me for the longest time. I was stuck living in the past. I was stuck on not accepting what was happening, not wanting to let go of my last relationship, and putting myself down because of it, starting to feel insecure, starting to doubt myself, all these things. So I was so focused on working on my mindset and reading all these books, but actually applying them to my life, because you could read something, you can listen to podcasts, you can do all that, but if you're not actively, applying them to your everyday life, they're not going to do much, right? So I was on this like healing journey, like intense healing journey, right? And then fast forward, March 2022 comes around. And I remember telling my mom, and my mom had been by my side throughout this entire experience, like entire time. She's right there with me, like whatever I need, whenever I want to. She would like force me to go on little like dinner dates with her and her friends, like, because I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go with my friends. I didn't want to do anything. So she would drag me along, and she'd make me go with her and say, "Come on, like, you're going to do it until it starts feeling good and starts feeling comfortable." And that's exactly what happened. I little by little, I got myself back out there. And so remember March 2022, I go, "Mom, like, I finally feel like myself again. Like, I feel like my energy's back. I feel like my personality is back." Because when you're on, for me at least, when you're on medication, I was on antidepressant and an antipsychotic medication. So I just feel like I wasn't myself. Like, that's just how I feel like I wasn't myself, just for me personally. And so I had gotten off of medication at that point.
You had gotten off the medication.
Yeah, I was on medication for about, so probably January, February, March, April. I got off of it around May. So I was on it for 4 or 5 months. So that affects you after a while, right? I had been off of medication, and I told her, I said, "Mom, like, I feel like myself again. Like, I feel good. I feel happy again." Like, I could genuinely say I was happy. I was, working through the whole breakup thing. That was really hard on me for a while, because I just didn't understand. Like, I just didn't understand that. That was really hard for me to understand. Obviously, also my whole mental health thing, right? So I tell her, "I'm so happy again," right? And she goes, "Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. That's amazing." And then 3 weeks later, she gets in an accident and she passes away. And in that moment, I remember thinking, I still can remember this day, like, exactly what I was thinking when I found out that someone came and knocked on my door and told me. And I was like, okay, like, this is a true test for me to see if I've really applied all these things that I've learned this past year, because I can't let this break me down, and I remember, it's so crazy, because I remember this one day, I was so depressed in bed and I didn't want to get out of bed. And my mom goes, "Look," I remember she sits down at the edge of my bed and she said, "Look, this is really unfortunate experience that you're going through right now. It is really unfortunate, and I'm sorry that you're going through it. She goes, but I hate to say this, but this isn't going to be the last thing you go through. She said, this is not going to be, there's going to be plenty of things that happen in your life that are going to be really hard to go through. She said, but you have to keep going. Like, you can't let anything stop you. You can't let anything bring you down. Like, you have to keep on going. She goes, and this isn't going to be the last of it. You know, there's going to be terrible things that happen. And she wasn't trying to be negative, but she was just trying to keep it real with me, meaning like pretty much preparing me what was going to happen a year later. And so when she died, I thought to myself, wow, like, this is the true test. Like, this is a true test for me to see if I've applied, you know, having a grateful mindset and, you know, living in the now and staying present and not dwelling on my past and, you know, not stressing about my future. Cause I had developed really bad anxiety when I got out of the mental hospital because my future was so unknown. Like, my future was so unknown because I thought, like, what am I going to do? I don't have a partner anymore. I don't have a business partner. I lost my romantic partner. Like, you know, I was just so out of it. And so I developed really bad anxiety. I've never experienced anxiety before. And so I had learned how to control those things. And I have a bunch of different, we can go into, but I have a lot of different things that more just mindset things. And so I thought, wow, you know, this is a true test. I believe in God. And I said, you know, I know that this is the test. Like, I know that God is just like, you have to keep going. You know, your mom was your biggest supporter and stuff, but she would want you to keep going, and she would want you to not let this take you back into a psychotic episode or take you back into depression. Because the psychiatrist, when I got off of medication, was like, you know what, like, I suggest, he was very against me getting off of it, but he said, you know, when tragedies happen, he said, like, specifically losing a loved one, sometimes that triggers people to go back into a psychotic episode. He's like, and I don't want that for you. This is like, we had no idea my mom was going to pass away. Obviously it was a very sudden tragic accident, but he was just like warning us. And so my mom, you know, we had talked about that before. And yeah, I just still stuck to what I was doing before. I'd acted like, no, I don't want to say I acted like my mom didn't pass away, but I knew what I was doing before that was helping me get through life. And I knew that I still had to keep doing that. I knew I couldn't let that stop me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned earlier how these past 3 years, your life has changed a lot, and got the context again of how transformative that's been,
Right.
these past 3 years. And I mean, to see you, you know, the way that you are when we interact in person and what you share on social media, especially with your TikTok content, you know, I'm sure that it's hard to this day. And, you know, it's something that'll stay there, especially with your mom.
Right.
But the first thing that comes to mind is the resilience that you need to have, and that I can see that you personally have, to be able to, you know, use that, everything that has come from that, and channel that energy the way that you do in such a positive way with what you share and your outlook online in general.
Yeah.
Which I think that has led to the current, well, how you had worded it last time we spoke, of the niche that you have created now on TikTok. And specifically the content that you're creating, which, if you want to share a little bit of kind of like what it is that you share right now.
Yeah. So,
here and then, but
yeah. So a lot of what I've been sharing on my page is more about being mindful, because I feel like being mindful and having self-awareness is everything. You have to be mindful of the way that you think, you know, the people you surround yourself with, just really everything. And a lot of the books that I'm reading right now, it's by this author. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh, and I've spoken with you about this a little bit before, but he was a Buddhist monk, and they're all about living mindfully, talking mindfully, walking mindfully, thinking mindfully, everything, being mindful. Like, and what I mean by that is like, and I will say there's aspects that I'm working on, like eating mindfully is something that I definitely need to work on. Like I just said, I had cheesecake for breakfast the other day. But just being mindful and living present and living in the present moment, because yes, I could dwell in the past of all the past memories I've had with my mom and how much I miss her. And then what that does is then it makes me feel sad that I don't have her anymore. And then, or if I think about the future, about the fact that she's not going to be there when I give birth one day, she's not going to be there when I get married one day, That makes me sad. So what do I have to do? I have to live right now. What is right now? It's a beautiful day outside. There's beautiful flowers in the backyard. There's, the wind, like it's a great weather, like, just being mindful, being present right now. The present moment is I live in this beautiful home because my best friend's mom offered me to live with her, and I have that to be grateful for every single day, and that's such a blessing. And so really, for what I try and teach people on TikTok is to not let their pain bring them down, and more use it as power, really, and not let their pain bring them down. Instead, learn from it and try and better yourself because of it. And I've made videos about that before, and I made a video about what I've learned from my mom's death, and someone commented, well, I don't agree with this at all. Like, what could I possibly learn from, I think I briefly mentioned like that my mom's passing has taught me a lot. And someone said like, well, what am I supposed to learn? Like, I think it was her sister had passed away. Like, how could I possibly learn anything from that? And so then I made a whole video about what I've learned about my mom's passing. And there's a ton of things that you can learn from the worst experiences. There's a ton of things you can learn,
Yeah.
And so that's really what I try and focus on my page, is try to give people a different outlook on things. A lot of people, and even myself, when we go through these things, we turn into a victim. We start feeling bad for ourselves because yes, some things are very, very unfortunate that happen in life. Like there's nothing good about, if you just look at it from the regular perspective, there's nothing good about my mom passing away. Like what good came from that? But no, now like I live so much more grateful, and I live so much more present. And I know that at any moment, anybody that I love could be gone. And so I try and show love to people that I care about every single day, and like, there's just so many things that you can learn, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's going to be a part that's going to resonate with a lot of people, because I think, most, if not all of us, well, I think all of us have experienced grief in one form or another,
Yeah.
especially with losing a loved one. For some people, it's more recent than with others.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's part of the human experience. And again, people take it a lot of different ways, but what you're sharing right now and the outlook that you've created, as I mentioned last time as well, is I think probably the best way that you can look at things, because again, it's like focusing on, again, right now, what is it experience, but it's like, what can I do moving forward to not stay like holding on to the past, essentially, because it's only going to weigh you down. And those are things that are easier said than done for anyone.
Right.
But again, just that message that you're sharing, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And right now you mentioned something as well that kind of leads to something that I wanted to ask you about, as essentially as a content creator. Regardless of what it is that you're sharing, it could be the most positive thing in the world. There's always going to be people who are going to spread negativity towards that, something bad or just negative to say about whatever it is, as you were just mentioning. How do you deal with that as someone, who's consistently, putting yourself out there, putting your content on social media, with the hate, with online hate?
Yeah. Honestly, I ignore, if it's like really, I ignore it all. Mainly I ignore it all, but there's certain ones that I feel like I have a response to, right? So I can give you an example. For the most part, if it's super negative, I'm like, this page is all about positivity and uplifting people. I'm not even going to give an ounce of my energy to negative people. But I'll give you an example. Like this girl, I had posted a video about choosing happiness every day, because really, there's two paths we can go on. We can dwell in all of our negativity and all the bad things that are happening, and like I said, choose the victim mindset, or we can choose happiness every day simply because we want to, and because we deserve it. So that was what my video was about, right? And this girl said, well, I think this is like, I can't remember exactly what she said, but like, oh, well, I don't understand how people could choose happiness when all of these, like, I think she said when she was talking about how like homophobia and racism and all these negative, like these terrible things that unfortunately do exist.
Everything then.
Yeah, she was like, how can I don't get how some people could be so ignorant and choose happiness when all of these terrible things like what I just said are existent. And I felt I need to respond to that, because I felt, well, you know what, let me enlighten you a little bit, and I said, I made a full video response, and the video actually did pretty well. So I was like, good, a lot of people could see like this, they needed to hear the response to this.
Mhm.
And my response to that was, yes, all of those things happen. Yes, all of those things are a part of life. Unfortunately, they are, we can't deny that, right? But what we can do is be the light that we need, that we need and we want in the world. Like that's the best thing we can do. Adding more negativity and anger and resentment and hate out there in the world does nothing. Like that's not going to help that situation at all. And the example I gave in the video was one of the books is from one of my favorite books that I read is called The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. And in that book, one of the laws is the law of giving. And the law of giving is every single day give something to somebody, whether it's a compliment, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a smile, a flower, anything. It doesn't have to be materialistic. But and so my response was, say you're in the grocery store, right? And you decide to smile at somebody or give somebody a compliment or, you know, somehow spread positivity. And maybe that person is dealing with homophobia or dealing with racism or dealing in some other aspect of their life, but you added a little bit of light and joy to their day right now. That's what we should be doing. Like instead of just harboring that anger inside of us because these things exist and all these terrible things that are very corrupt in the world, and it's like we can't let that bring us down. We have to enlighten the world and be the joy and be the happiness and peace that we want others and for ourselves. So
Yeah.
that was my response to that girl.
I think that was a great response. And
Yeah.
I always say, you know, and I have this conversation with, you know, close friends and family. I think it's
Mhm.
a very common conversation or topic of, you know, just
Mhm.
everything bad that's going on in the world,
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, again, it's part of the, well, for us that we're humans, for part of the human experience is to be part of all of that
Yeah.
negativity. But at the same time, like there's all of these positive and good things that happen. And at the end of the day, you are only going to be able to influence whatever you have control of.
Right. That's
Those,
what I think I said in my video. I was like, yeah.
the things that you have immediate to you that you can personally either touch or, you know, somehow reach, uh,
Mhm.
that's what you are going to have control on. So it's like, why focus on all those other things
Mhm.
when it's only going to overwhelm you? And I think,
Yeah.
you know, there's always things going on, but we can backtrack a little bit back to 2020 when
Mhm.
all where it literally seemed like the world was ending. Uh,
Yeah.
there was a point in time where I developed this mindset of like, okay, you can focus on everything that's going on right now, this
Mhm.
riots going on and
Mhm.
over here and this and that. It's like, or you focus on when you could control, which at the time I was trying to create a business and just develop in my mindset, a more
Yeah.
mindful mindset. And it's like, because that's what you could control. That's what I could actually focus on. Because if I decide to focus on the bad stuff, trust me, there's like plenty of things for you to focus on. Like, and that's just gonna take you down that rabbit
Mhm.
hole. You know,
Mhm.
become this bitter, negative, pessimistic person, which is very easy
Exactly.
to do. So, you know, especially right now with social media, you know, where we're seeing all these, there's everything from anywhere, from anyone.
Yeah.
It's so easy to focus on the negative stuff. So, again, it's great to see that there's people such as yourself that's sharing content that's positive, you know, and
Yeah.
intended to help people focus on that, or, you know, sharing about books in different ways based on your experience as well of like, well, there's good out there, and
Mhm.
probably focus on that instead of
Yeah.
for the bad stuff, because I mean it's gonna, both of them are there, so it's like you decide to focus
Right.
on what you
Yeah.
focus on.
I made a video recently and I said the way I look at life is, there's two different paths we can go on, We can go on, like I mentioned earlier, the path of feeling like a victim of life, because yes, there's going to be things in life that are out of your control that are very unfortunate. And sometimes I have my days. I'm not gonna lie and say like every single day I'm like this happy, up like joyful person. Some days I have the days where I'm in bed crying because I miss my mom or whatever. But um, there's two paths that you can choose every day, and it really is a choice every single day. That the other path, there's the victim mindset path, and then there's the other path of saying, you know what, I'm gonna choose this. I'm gonna choose happiness. I'm gonna choose to be positive. I'm gonna choose happy thoughts. I'm gonna direct my negative thoughts whenever I catch them to something positive, to something that I'm grateful for, to all the blessings. And to me, you have to live life regardless, right? I mean, obviously, you know, there's people that end their lives, unfortunately, which I've been at that place where I did not want to live anymore. And I wanted to do that. But if you're going to choose to live, then you might as well choose the better path, the path that's going to make you feel better. And so that's just really what I have to focus on every day, is like choosing that path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, something that's coming to mind about, you know, using your experience to kind of form this mindset and outlook on life.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share a little bit about my story.
Yeah.
I always like to make this about the guests, but I think it's a perfect opportunity right now that we're on the
Mm-hmm.
subject. And with this, not to compare in any way of, you know, what I was going through at the time with what you
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. But I think we had this conversation before of how in 2021 I myself was going through something with a breakup as well,
Mm-hmm.
which it was a very, I don't think I'd ever experienced something like that in my life before. So first off, I understand you with what it feels like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
something like that with,
It's like you're grieving a person.
it's like grieving a person, yeah. And you know, I've read about it and listened to podcasts and videos specifically on that of how it's a very similar feeling when you lose someone, like in that sense, a romantic part,
Mm-hmm.
as compared to when you lose a loved one, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
passing away. And just dealing through that. I don't think I've ever shared this before,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, this again is a perfect opportunity.
Perfect
There
time.
was one day,
Mm-hmm.
literally, I kid you not, for like a few seconds. It happened for a few seconds that I was just in this state of mind where I don't want to say I thought about suicide, but
Mm-hmm.
I was in a point where it was like I understand why people commit suicide. Literally for a split second, like for a split second or a few seconds, I was in that side of like, I guess you could say I was like, I could probably, you know,
Mm-hmm.
sit right here. And then right
Yeah.
kind of reacted on,
Yeah. Get back to
oh,
it.
like what was that? But for the
Yeah.
first time in my life, only time in my life that it was
Yeah.
shit. Like
Yeah. Because it's like you want to escape that pain that you feel however you can. Really, it's like you're tired of feeling the pain. I completely understand why people before I went through all this stuff, yeah, I
yeah.
was like you, or I'd never like, I don't know, I didn't really understand until
Yeah. But again, you know, having gone through that experience at the time that I did, which I was what, 22 at the time, 23. But
mm-hmm.
we're on the same age, so yeah, it was
23, yeah.
yeah, a little bit over 2 years ago that this was. You know, of course, in the beginning, you know, it's something that it's gonna take a lot of from you to really get over that, and
Mm-hmm.
something that you can extend for a long period of time, depending on what you do to cope and kind of really just um, grow from that or grow out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you fast forward 2 years now, 2.5 years from that, and the person that I was then, the mindset that I had then, is like a night and day to what I am now. And on the contrary, at the time I would see that I was like, oh my God, that really happened, you know, like that sucks. And now I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that that actually happened. I'm glad that I had that experience because it brought so many things to light,
Mm-hmm.
so many things that I didn't even know were there, and for like about my own personality or things that uh it shined a light on the things that I needed to work on. So
Mm-hmm.
it has given me all this time to really work on them, be mindful about the things that I'm doing and the things that I did that I shouldn't have done, or the things that I did that were like, okay, that was cool, continue doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But just the example of how probably our lowest lows are those experiences that give us the opportunity to really, when you come out of that, if you do the right things, to come out, you know, bigger, better, stronger, like they say. You really
Mm-hmm.
evolve from that. And, I think if you don't experience things like that, you don't have the opportunity to really go through those growth periods of time in your life that come from
Yeah.
some of the hardest things that happen to us.
I couldn't agree anymore. You said it perfectly.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I wanted to share that. And
Yeah, no.
Cynthia,
That's
Mhm. Oh,
no, I was gonna say that's perfect. That's you like hit it on like on the dot with that.
yeah. So we get to the last section of the
Mhm.
podcast, Cynthia, and in this part. So these are questions that I like to ask to all of the guests that I have.
Okay.
And with this first question, actually, I'm really looking forward to your response because this is like your specialty right here.
Okay. I'm
Essentially,
scared.
essentially, it's your recommendation about it could be a mixture or it could be about both. But what are three books and or podcasts that you would recommend for people? And
Okay, this
and
is a
I'm
good
probably
one.
limiting you on that because
You are limiting
I
because I
know.
have
Okay,
books right in front
but
of
you
me, and
can
I'm like, okay,
share.
which ones are gonna make
Yeah,
it to?
you can
Okay,
actually share a few more if you want, because I know, like I said,
okay.
like, this is your thing. So,
Let me think about this. I'm trying to think about because there's certain books that I really. Okay, let me just start. So the first one is The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. I have it right in front of me if you want me. This
oh, okay,
book
yeah, wait, let me see.
like lives by me at all times. This
Yeah.
isn't the actual cover because the real cover came off, but it's The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra.
Okay.
And I started reading this book about 3 weeks before my mom passed away, and this saved me. Like everything that is in this book, if you actually apply it, it applies to life in general. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to read and it's so good. And the biggest thing that I took away from this book, one is living in a state of gratitude, but the next one that I immediately repeated to myself when I found out my mom was passed away, unfortunately, is acceptance. And in that book, there's a quote that says, you have to accept people, situations, outcomes as they are, not for what you wish they were.
Mm.
So that right there is the most powerful statement to me because, and that's more talking about things that you cannot control, right? Because obviously the things you can control in your life, do the best you can to control them, and you can control yourself and the way you react to things. But my mom passing away, I had no control over, right? I had no control over that. And so what can I do? All I can do is accept it for what it is, not for what I wish it was. So that's the main thing I took away from that book, and that book is so good.
Yeah. Before you continue with the other recommendations, I just want to highlight that people really need to pay attention to this part because you see that everything that Cynthia has shared that of what she has gone through the past few years, and you see the mindset that she has, just from this conversation, if you know her in person, and just from the content that she shares. So again, the power that things like books, reading books, and whatever it is that the content that you expose yourself to. So yeah, pay attention to this part.
The next one, oh, I hate that I have to. Okay, you said I could choose a little bit more, but I'm gonna try to stick to three because I want to stick to your thing. So the next one is called The Art of Living, and that is by Thich Nhat Hanh. And so The Art of Living would be my second one, and that book is really about being mindful, really about mindfulness, self-awareness, choosing peace, and I love that book. I listen to a lot of books on Audible. So I read some books and I listen to a lot on Audible. A lot. I have like probably like 50 books in my audio book library that I've listened to. And The Art of Living I've listened to on repeat since I bought it. Literally on repeat at least 4 times now. It's so good. I
Okay.
think if every person read and applied that book, like the world would be so much peaceful, like more peaceful and just better.
Yeah. You know what?
Yes.
That might be the one I go for right after this.
It's good.
I just got my Audible subscription, so
Really? Oh
yeah,
my gosh, now I can send you screenshots of all the books you need to
yeah.
get.
There you go. There
I
you go.
like geek out about this stuff, and I never
There
thought
you
I'd
go.
be this person because like back in high school, if you passed me a book to read, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not reading that.
Okay, tell me about it. You can see my background over here too with myself, but I
I love it.
same. But oh my God, yeah, books
Yeah.
they have such a huge
Yeah.
impact. But okay, so that's number two.
So that's number two. Let me think about this. Okay, I'm gonna say, let me look at this pile right here. Oh no, they're not gonna make it. I have this one that I feel is so good. So this next one is called How to Heal Toxic Thoughts. And I believe the author is Sandra Ingerman. And that book is it's so cool to see that these are all different authors, but everything that they're saying correlates to one another. Like everything it's like a puzzle, and all that they put all the pieces together for me. Like that's how I look at all the books that I've read, is like each one puts a different piece of the puzzle, but they all like correlate together. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
so it's called How to Heal Toxic Thoughts, and it's a lot about um I would say it's a lot about self-awareness. It's a lot about energy and it helps a lot with anxiety for me, anxiety and depression. And so those would be my top three right now. Honestly, I want to say one more just because you said I can, and because it's right
Go
in
for
front
it,
of
go
me,
for it. I was gonna say
and
with
because I
that.
love these authors, but The Mastery of Self. This
Mm,
is by so Don Miguel Ruiz is the author of the Four Agreements.
agreements.
This book right here. I'll show it.
Number
Wait,
five. Give shows the fifth one.
no, I'm not. No, I'm just showing that this is his son. So this is him. This is
Yeah.
the father, and this is the son. And this, they're both good. But this book right here is really, really, really good about really, for me, like mastering your mind, like controlling your mind. And yeah, I could go on about this book. Let me know. But those are my books that I really love.
I think we'll have another episode in where we debrief books and really get.
Oh God, people are gonna be like these geeks.
Yeah, because we could go on about that for a while.
Oh,
Especially,
I can talk about it all day.
yeah, that third one that you shared, how to heal toxic thoughts. Thoughts. The first thing that came to mind, I was like, "Oh, that's for all the toxicas and toxicos, like in relationships."
Hey,
Like, I need that one.
Oh God.
Yeah, okay. What about a podcast? Shares a podcast. You already, you
Podcast.
ran out of the three, but we're good.
Mm-hmm. Podcast.
Podcast?
So the podcasts I listen to are more just like for fun. They're not really like
Okay.
much like empowering. Like, I feel like for me, my podcasts are my audiobooks. Like when I'm listening, if I'm listening to something, it's an audiobook.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't really listen to podcasts too much. If I do, I like watching them on YouTube because I like to see people, like kind of how we're doing it. Like I don't like to just. I mean, I know either way you get, you can get the information, but the podcasts I listen to are like complete, like just for fun, like nothing to do with like self-awareness or mindfulness.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, like I said, I felt like I really limited it on that one, but we'll have.
Well, do I get to list audiobooks since I don't listen to podcasts? No.
No. Yeah.
No, yeah.
So yeah, like I said,
we'll get more into it another time.
We'll have a whole episode just on that. Okay. So second one. What's an advice you would give to your younger self? Imagine a 17, 18-year-old Cynthia right now.
My advice to my younger self would be that to understand that life isn't going to always go the way I plan it in my head and the way that I expect it in my head, and to learn how to adapt well to change. That would probably be I mean, I could go with so much advice that I would give myself, but I feel like at that point in my life, I thought that my life was going to go a certain way. And I was so stuck on that, like thinking that, I'm going to go to college and then I'm going to get married and then I'm going to have kids. And then I'm like, I just had this plan for myself and my life's gone nothing like I expected it to. And that's okay. I've learned that you can't have expectations for life. You can have desires and you can have wants, but to put an expectation out there, sometimes things aren't always going to go the way you planned. And then when you have your mind so set on these certain expectations that you have, let's say for me, I wanted to be a young mom and have kids by the time I'm like 26, 27. I'm 25 and single, and I'm so far from like having kids. And so like now I don't really put expectations out there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to live in the present moment and I'm going to attract all my desires that I want by living in that frequency, but I'm not going to be like, this has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be sad and I'm going to be depressed. So really would just be telling myself to kind of like adapt well to change and expect life to be ever changing,
I think that's a great advice. Be open minded about life.
Yes.
I love that. Okay. So the third one, and I'm really interested on this one, a little bit of context behind that, because again, we're also different, different outlooks on life and priorities and just, ways about that they go with their life. How do you define success?
This is great. This is a good one. For me, and this is a quote from this book that I'm going to just throw in here since you brought it up. This book, This Power of the Subconscious Mind. There's a quote in that book and it says, and I agree with this now that I've gone through everything. Because if you would ask me this question 3 years ago, I would have said, having investments and having money in my bank account and, like having a successful business and all these things, right? But no, true success, and this is a quote from this book, and I'll go more into it, but true success is having peace of mind.
Mhm.
And for me, that is the biggest thing because, like I said, my business was going great, everything was going well, my bank account was looking good. But what did all of that mean when I was in the mental hospital? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing, right? So to me, true success is having peace of mind, having my sanity, and being happy every day.
Yeah.
Like that is what I strive for. Everything else will come, but that is what I strive for.
Wow, I love that.
Hmm.
I love how you have that example of how, uh, with the business and the monetary side of things, you were having it all at one point, and it was
Hmm. Yeah, when everything's when stripped away from you, you're like, whoa, like what really is life like? What is life really about at that point? And now, I mean, I'll be completely honest, my bank account is not what it was 3 years ago, but guess what? I am so much more at peace. I'm so much happier. I feel like I can handle anything that's going to come my way in life. And to me, that's much more important than, like for me, I wanted to have property by now. Like I had all these things in my mind that like in my 3 years from back in 2020, I thought that were going to happen. That's like I said earlier, is having expectations. I thought that all these things were going to be met, like all these expectations that I had were going to be met, but also didn't expect to lose my mind, also didn't expect to lose my mom. But these things happen and you just have to go with them. And yeah.
yeah. So having peace of mind,
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. And happiness and peace of mind.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so fourth and final one.
Hmm.
This one is because I'm personally a big fan of this.
Okay.
So I'm just curious to see people's response to it.
Okay.
You could travel to any place in the world right now, all expenses paid for. Let's say you go on a trip this weekend.
Hmm.
Where would you go and why?
Oh, this one. Okay. And this one is specifically like, I know you're going to be like, oh my gosh, is Costa Rica. Because I
Okay.
know you've been to Costa Rica and I've always wanted to go to Costa Rica. So
Mm.
when you were going, and I remember you guys like did a little fundraiser type thing, I was like, oh my God, like I needed support because I want to go to Costa Rica so bad. And like,
Yeah.
I was just obviously always in support of like whatever journey you've been on, like through Instagram. We've been friends for years, but we've only connected a couple times throughout these busy years that we've had. And so I've always followed your journey through Instagram and Snapchat and stuff. And
Yeah.
so
And I appreciate
I've always
that.
wanted to go to Costa Rica. And
Yeah.
so that would probably be where.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Stop playing. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot recommend Costa Rica enough. Uh,
Hmm.
so I don't know. We don't have to talk about outside of this, but we got to go out there. What's up?
Yeah. You know the area. I'm sure you've met a couple friends.
Yeah, actually, I have some friends that are heading out there. I think sometime this week or next week.
Don't tell
Yeah,
me that. Don't tell me that.
I know, right? Yeah, they were hitting me up for like tips and stuff on things.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, well, I hope that comes in the near future.
Thank you. You too.
Personal experience again. Yeah, it's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
The pandemic, unfortunately, stole from me.
Yeah. Just cut your time
Yeah,
a little short.
but yeah, but it's not about that. I really wanted to,
Right.
where you wanted to go. But with that being said, Cynthia, it was great having you on the podcast today.
Thank you. So honored to be on here because we've been talking about this for a while. Like,
Yeah,
it's nice to see you, like, actually, what we were talking about earlier is taking action and really doing it. And it's like the best thing ever.
yeah. And I was really excited to do this for a long time and to have people such as yourself on, specifically with you. Like I envisioned this, I want to say for probably the past couple of years. Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
get into that. So I'm glad that it finally happened. I'm sure this is the first of future episodes that we'll be having.
Yay. I'm so excited because, we could talk for literally hours.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This could have been easily a 2-3 hour long episode, but we'll break them down over time, and that way people
Yep.
even see our evolution with.
Right.
But again, thank you so much for coming. I think
Yeah.
I myself, like usual, gain a lot from our conversations. I'm sure
Thank you.
people will also do so.
Mhm.
I will be sharing in the description on the YouTube portion
Mhm.
for Sac City Tacos. I know you still have that going on. Your platform for TikTok, and
Mhm.
then maybe some of the books that you shared as well, because I think
Yeah.
personally, I'm gonna hop on some of those now that I have.
Yes.
Uh,
And like later on, you're gonna get screenshots from Audible
yes,
of all the
please. But okay, with that being said, people, I hope y'all get something out of this episode. Probably gonna be one of my favorite episodes. And you'll see us again.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, guys. To my craziness.